What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Fit Fat Dad podcast, the podcast where it's two dads who are kind of fit, kind of fat, talking all things dad. Greetings again, Blair. We have made it to episode 13. Lucky,
13.
lucky number 13. Are you intimidated by the number 13 at all? Is that one that keeps
Nah,
you up at night?
I'm not really superstitious. Not
Okay.
too bad, except for I was playing ball. I'm a baseball player, so all baseball players are superstitious.
I was about to say.
Yeah, on the ball field, very much superstitious. Put my pants on the same way every time. Got in the batter's box the same way.
We'll have
Cheers.
to get into that a lot separately. All right, so hey, let's just get into the hashtag dad life moment today. And this one's very important. This is a pivotal time of the year for dads and husbands to really get it wrong.
Yeah.
And that is Mother's Day.
Yep.
And what I want to do here in this hashtag dad life moment is I've got a list of the top 10 Mother's Day gift ideas, and we'll go through that and see if you've done any of that and which one that you've done it for, either your mom or your wife or just any moms that are out there that need to be celebrated.
Okay.
But before we go there, you and I were talking. You've got some pretty good Mother's Day fails that may make our listeners feel a little bit better about some of the things. So give me some of those. We love the art of self-deprecation here at the Fit Fat Dad podcast. So dive in. Tell us your worst Mother's Day idea. And who was it for? Your mom or for Ricky, your wife?
So I am not. Let me preface this. So some people have a knack for just finding amazing gifts,
and being thoughtful.
Yeah, and being thoughtful and things like that. And I feel like I can be thoughtful, but it's just not my forte. My wife is amazing at it, like the most thoughtful gifts. Like it's like, how do you come up with stuff like that? So it's her. I think we had just had Adler, so it was our first Mother's Day. Yeah, it was because she was gone. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do something awesome. I had to stay in for work. She'd just taken the kid up to see her parents in West Virginia. I'm like, all right, I want to send her some flowers. And I was like, so I'm Googling it. And I was like, oh man, this is look really cool. It was like this vase that had a poem on it. And like online, I'm like, I read the poem and like, man, that's pretty good. Okay, I like it. So I order it.
So I'm going to stop you right here.
Yeah.
A vase with a poem on it.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Just continue.
It spoke to me.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask what level of context and what you were doing when it spoke to you, but continue, Mr. Poet.
It felt right. Okay, how about that? It just felt right. And I was like, all right. So, okay, so I'm going to send this up. And so we get it. And I'm like, hey, did you get your vow? And she goes, yeah, I got it. I'm like, okay, well, cool. Well, did you like it? Well, it looked like you scanned the internet for 5 minutes and found
Busted.
it. I'm like, actually, I kind of searched and I couldn't find anything, and this is what I found. And yeah, it did not go over well. And once I saw it, it was very cheaply made. Like I think it had like I think the poem was like a plastic sticker on it.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty bad. So you epic fail right out of the gate.
You bought it sight unseen in whatever made in China image that they made to make it look great on the online.
Yeah.
That was your.
But what I did though is I set the bar really low. So everything after that has been good.
Yeah.
Tip. Set the bar low with the first one. No.
Yeah. Well, I've failed. I think the biggest fail. So here is the challenging thing that I have. And while we're at it, I'm going to take the moment to wish Coach Wife a very happy birthday.
Yeah.
It's a really big birthday for her. I'm not going to announce which one it is on this podcast, but it is her birthday coming up here. It's also Riggs's birthday.
Yep.
And then it's also our anniversary. And then it's also Cinco de Mayo. And then it's also Mother's Day. So now you can understand
Holy cow.
What goes on for me in the next. Where I've made mistakes is I panic.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do for any of that.
Yeah.
And the biggest mistake that I made is I just did nothing. I just did nothing for all of it. And that was the worst
Yep.
everything. I think that was like, I don't know. I mean, it was a while back ago, but that was just a very bad all around. So that was the worst Mother's Day thing that I did. But to keep things moving here, I've got a list of the top 10 Mother's Day ideas,
Okay.
and you walk me through. We'll kind of do this jointly. Have you done it, and who have you done it for?
Okay.
Right, either your mom or your wife. So right out of the gates, a personalized photo album, like scrapbook.
Yeah.
Are you thoughtful enough, Blair Morris, to have done a scrapbook?
I don't know if a scrapbook, but I feel like I've done a picture with a family or something.
You feel like you have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 38. That's a lot of Mother's Day gifts, like to my mom. So,
Look,
yeah,
if
I mean,
you
I can't remember yesterday.
brother, if you've not gone through the whole what what is it I, can't- I don't know what the website is, but scrapbook is the way to go. I've done multiple scrapbooks.
Yeah.
You would never take me as a scrapbook person.
No, not at all.
Like even old school back in the day when you actually had to use scissors and
Yep.
construction paper and paper it on there.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But I've not done anything like that in the last 20 years. Now it's just you go to the website, they randomize some pictures and spit you out a
Huh.
thoughtful scrapbook.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. I like it. No, I'm sure I have, but I don't remember. I know I've done a picture frame with some family photos or things like that. Like I have done that in the past.
All right. So number two, a spa day gift certificate. Have you done
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely. Go
for the
to.
for wife or for mom?
But
Is it
both. Like that's an
okay?
easy go to.
That's an
Like,
easy go to.
yep.
It
Yep.
lacks the thoughtfulness,
I agree. But it's an
but they
easy go to.
but they really love it.
Yep.
Yeah. That one is a good one. That one is a really good one. Even if it lacks the thoughtfulness, they're going to appreciate it because it
That's right.
comes with the added bonus of you taking care of the kids.
Exactly.
All
That's
right.
right.
Good job on that one. A subscription to a monthly book club or wine club.
No, never done that one.
Never done that one either. I have had a subscription for Father's Day for a fishing tackle club.
No,
Right.
that's
So
fun.
maybe the old monthly subscription thing is the gift that
Yeah.
keeps on giving. All
Yeah.
right.
There you go.
A piece of jewelry.
So Ricky's not a big jewelry person at all. Like it, my wife's really hard to buy for.
Feel you on that one.
The wife, yeah, I think no, the wife. Mom, I think I maybe have gotten her some because she was big into. Oh, there was a certain brand of bracelets with trinkets and things on it. I think I maybe have gotten that to her for one Mother's Day.
Yeah, that one is a tricky. If you are in tune with what your mom or your wife prefers, I've messed up the jewelry thing so many times with my
Oh
wife
yeah, yeah,
and messed it up expensive, like expensive jewelry that she didn't appreciate, that she didn't like. She appreciated, she didn't like it. And looking back, I could understand. So that's not in my selection. It's better to
yeah.
let them pick it out. But I'm pretty sure I could buy my mom like a candy necklace and she would love it. And she
Yeah.
would wear it for a year. All right, let's keep it moving. A cooking class.
No, never done that one.
To me, that's a slap in the face.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, hey, honey, or hey, mom, here is a cooking class. You need to up your game to feed me.
Well, I don't know though, man, because I did one with some friends, and this was fun. Is we went to a place in Birmingham, and there was probably 10 people there, and we learned how to cook steaks and cut and things like that. I think if you did that, like where you get to have wine and just enjoy it, that would be fun. But if it's actually like a, hey, I'm going to teach you how to cook kind of thing,
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. I like the way that you explain that, where it's an experience rather
that's right,
than a hint.
educational,
Yeah,
yeah.
a hint at yeah. Well, the dinner you cooked the other day was less than stellar. So
Right,
here is
right.
your one-on-one cooking class. Okay, now we're getting into elements that I would personally be really uncomfortable buying or have no understanding of what my mom or wife would
Okay.
like. A stylish handbag or purse.
Okay, so this is a big one. I
Oh,
almost did
for
this.
you.
Yeah, I almost did this for Christmas, and I'm so glad that I didn't because Ricky and I's brother were out, and she's like, "I need a new purse." I would like this style. And like, you go in there and like, even if you're talking to somebody like, well, do you like it like this? Or do you like it like that? Or I'm like, I have no clue, but I know kind of what she's looking for. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy this one. And then I had it. And I decided not going to do this. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because she was like, that's not even close to what I wanted. And it was a pretty expensive purse and there was no refunds.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were probably just looking at a name brand. Like the brand alone is going to get all the bonus points.
Well, even
At
like
least that's what I would have done.
yeah, no. So the brand, I mean, this was a pretty high end brand, and it was. But I've seen, in my mind, I have seen the wife like carry something like that or similar, or like, oh, that's functional and it's classy, and if we go out to dinner, it's kind of a little bit of a showpiece. Like, oh wow, but she did not her style at all, and not what she was looking for.
So that's risky. You've got
That's
to
risky. Oh yeah, you got to be really in tune.
You got to be in tune. All right, a smartwatch or fitness tracker.
I think that goes back to the cooking class. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But very cool. Like, so if mom or wife is into fitness,
Then there you go.
and they
That's
don't
right.
have a tracker, great idea.
That's right.
If you were suggesting they need to get a little more fit, yeah, there's
Yeah.
probably better ways to do that. A set of high quality skincare products.
Wouldn't even go there.
Yeah,
No clue.
I would jack that up.
Yep.
A scented candle.
That's too. That's not enough for Mother's Day.
Yeah, and here's one that is probably the best idea out of all of them: a heartfelt handwritten letter.
Yes. So my wife undefeated. That's right. That shouldn't on our list. That should be like number one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in my experience with moms and wives, I think something that is well thought out is that does anything more than the purchase amount or the experience. It's like, did you take the time to think about it and put it together? And a handwritten note is amazing.
Yeah, I'm not a gift buying expert, but something that is personal that you
Mm-hmm.
can't go out and buy. At least in our family, I feel like if we want it, we're going to go buy it for ourselves.
Yeah.
So that to me is the winner chicken dinner. And for you dads out there that still have not bought the Mother's Day gift, maybe this helped a little bit. So that's our hashtag dad life moment, is working out the Mother's Day gift selection as we get down the road. So cheers to you. Hopefully you get it out, knock it done. And if you have other ideas, we'd love to hear them too. And feel free to share them as we roll into this Mother's Day. All right, Blair Bear, Grizzly Blair, let's get into the meat of the show today. And we'll kind of get a little bit more serious today. And so a topic that I want to talk about that I think is very prevalent in everybody, but especially men and dads, is maintaining confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Or another way to state it is how to overcome losing your confidence. And I love the quote, and I forget who said it. It's, if we don't stop, we win.
Yep.
We only lose if we quit.
Yep.
That's it. Period. So you can be doing stuff bad. You can, be doing it the wrong way, messing up. But if you just keep pursuing to get better, even if it's a 0.5% better every day, we win.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk through some of the things, and this just goes beyond being a dad, but I think it's very relevant here, is what are some ways that really affect negatively a dad's confidence, a man's confidence? And I've got a few listed out here that I was thinking through, but the one that, and we've touched a little bit on this in the show, the one that really jumps out as the number one is comparison.
Yep.
And you've touched on that.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that I think really within the comparison are the categories of lifestyle comparison,
Mm-hmm.
financial comparison. A really big one that doesn't get talked about enough is job performance / career comparison, health and fitness comparison. And then the fact that advertising, the way it's made, and the way it's targeted to your phone, it knows everything about you. So you're getting hit with messaging all day long about how you're supposed to be this better father, this
Mhm.
better man, and you're supposed to look a certain way and have all these things that you don't have. And that's a really, really bad way. Anything within those categories that you had to deal with personally.
Yeah, so I think, it's in you. Let me go back and talk about messaging really quick because I was um I was on a what was it doing? I was on a podcast the other day and I was listening, and there's a pretty big influencer out there. And he's a pretty controversial guy, and he was on stage giving a speech or something like that. And he said, if you're a man and you don't make over $400,000 a year, are you even a man? And like that just hit me. I'm like,
Wow.
dude,
Yeah.
what are you? I mean, like, what are you spewing there?
Yeah. That
And
money is the most important thing,
yeah, the
right?
money and just you know, and you hear a lot of lions and sheep and all that, and I think there's some truth to what is being told out there, but I think that's more of an attitude than an actual thing. But I said, okay, so here's this guy, very well known, published, and he's given this talk to I don't know how many men, and he's like, if you don't make over $400,000 a year as a male, like you're failing, like you're not even an alpha male, you're not a male, period, like you're
Mm,
not a man.
mm.
I'm like, that's not what it's about, right? And so I think if you're being in today's society, and that message, I think, is being spewed more and more and more and more, just with the access that we have to that stuff on social media and and just anything in life, like it's right in front of our face. That can really weigh on men's confidence. And it's like, man, I'm not hitting that. Well, why am I not hitting that? And then you start going down this dark road of, well, what about this and what about that? And I would just say it all comes down to this, in my opinion. It's like you do you, you do you. Focus on yourself, and how. And you mentioned it in the kind of the opening little segment is, how do I get better every single day? But you have to set metrics too. Like, what do you want? If you want to be a family man, then pour your time into family man. If you want to be rich, okay, great. If that's your goal in life, awesome. If you want to be 400, $500,000 plus a month, that's your goal and that's what drives you. That's awesome. But don't compare to everybody else, because mine's going to be different than yours. Graham's it's going to be different than Joe Blows down the street.
Yeah. We were watching, Coach Wife and I were watching that documentary the other day, and it talked about comparison, and it addressed, I guess, if you were to look at comparison prior to social media or before social
Mhm.
media got to what it is today, the comparison was keeping up with the Joneses.
Yep.
And that was what they would call more of a horizontal comparison. So you were comparing yourself to those in your neighborhood or those within your friend base.
Hmm.
And they may only be a half level up, 1 to 2 levels up. Something that's pretty realistic in achieving. But again, it still causes envy and jealousy,
Right.
but it's in a realistic set level. And with the age of social media and everybody, exactly like you said, seeing influencers on their feeds or whatever, it's now more of a vertical comparison.
Hmm.
So you've got people comparing, like, hey, Graham, and where Graham's at in his life, financial situation, just whatever situation. Now I'm looking at LeBron James, and I'm like, man, wow, how come I'm not flying on
Right.
a private G jet, or how come I'm not? But that's the reality, and that
Yep.
is such a fake reality. But that is because people see it on their phone, and they're looking at it what they perceive to be a approachable manner, right? Like it's on its phone. It's not in mainstream, broad reach media. It's on my phone. It's a realistic chance that I could. It's not at all. But people start comparing themselves
That's right.
with that level, and that's just, there's no way that's ever going to happen unless you hit the lottery. But that's where people compare themselves with, and they really struggle, and that leads to depression because they've not achieved a certain level of, and then it just feeds into everything else
Yeah.
that goes down, then even into a downward spiral. But even at that, if that's lifestyle and financial, Job performance within your own peer network is another thing that really gets people. Let's call LinkedIn what it is. I mean, it's a glorified professional level Facebook,
Mhm.
TikTok, and people come up with clever titles that make them more um, seem more successful than they are, like chief performance of uh, evaluation and operations of my desk.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're doing a podcast that has, a few listeners. By no means are we anywhere near. we're still paying. It's not paying
Yeah,
us back.
yeah.
But I could easily go up there and put like chief executive officer of the Fit Fat Dad podcast, put that on my title, post some pictures about how successful I am, and people are going to believe that from the outside, like, oh, he's got it made.
Yep.
But it is a facade. It's a false front, and it's not. It is kind of a reality, but the fact that it looks like I'm telling you we're just knocking it out, making millions, which people do. But the challenge is like when you get into that comparison, is especially as men and as dads looking at your peers in a career path, they make vertical moves in their career because of the way that they portrayed themselves on LinkedIn or social media. And then it comes down to com- who really sells their best facade instead of a real reality. And that can be really daggers in the soul of a man that's or a dad that's really trying to live it by like being humble, being
Mhm.
confident, and it can really take knocks on those that are like, I've done everything right, but it seems to get ahead in this world, you got to present a overselling virtual presence of yourself rather than who you are as a reality. And I think there's truth to that too. But I'm not saying that's the way to go. I think
Yeah,
it's real easy to get and lose confidence in that because you see that happening all the time.
that's right. Yeah, and I think it really, again, it boils down to like what you have to internalize what you want, right? I mean, and that's just my opinion on it. You've got to look at it and say, okay, well, what do I want out of my life? Like for me, yes, I have a business. I want my business to be successful, and I'm working hard to make my business successful. However, I want to be before that the best dad and the best husband that I can be. And that's the balance is, you know, do I sacrifice some time with my family for my business? Absolutely I do sometimes, but I'm also going to put them first, right? And it's going to be because that's my priority before anything else is my wife and my kids. And some men, they don't do that and they take their business and that's, they have a wife and children that they don't ever see, and that's the life that they live and that's the goals that they've set for themselves, but that's them. And they're working 18, 20 hours, I don't know, some of them work 20 hours a day, and 19 hours a day, and they may become in that top 1 or 2%. But what did they sacrifice to get there? And they may
Yeah.
receive that on the back end, but how many baseball games and soccer games and birthdays have they missed to do that?
Yeah.
Um, so I think comparison is the root of a lot of self doubt in men and dads, especially and I think another thing, you maybe those people, maybe those dads that that is their goal is to be in the top 1 or 2% in the country and financial wealth and all of that. They may be looking at other dads and being like, man, I'm envious of Joe Blow down the street that has all this time with his kids.
Yeah.
I think it goes both ways. I really do.
Yeah.
But um, but the comparison to other dads and men's is where confidence really can come into play and beat you down.
Yeah. Well, so here I'm flipping the script on this a little bit. So it's one thing if you're self internalizing this, but let's in our families today, it's very easy for your wife or whoever to take a look at their circumstances and compare
Mhm.
themselves to social media and the families that are presented that are doing so much thing, having so much more experience, seem to have all the money, seem to have, And then that level of lifestyle within the family, kids too, can be placed. And again, I'm not just saying it's all on the dad. It definitely gets on the mom too, but it can be placed on the dad as seen as the head of the household. Like,
Mhm.
this is the life that we want, and this is not the life that we have.
Right.
Go get it for us. And then that just kind of compounds a little bit onto
Absolutely.
the problems. Again, I go to vertical comparison. It's,
Yep.
hey, we want that Kim Kardashian lifestyle, but we make 0.0000.1% of the Kim Kardashian income.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that's not how it is in our family, and I'm not saying that's how it is in your family, but it's not unrealistic to think that that's how it is. I mean, you can look at the numbers, and I don't have them here in front of me, just not necessarily dad or men, but how many more people are depressed
Hmm.
now, or would say, I struggle with depression versus 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, that's more because there's more awareness to it. We know how to identify it. And maybe there's some truth to that. But the reality is, it goes back to people comparing themselves with other things and other material sources. Um, and that gets into my other, I mean, we spend a lot of time there in comparison, but that's, to me, it all filters from that.
That's correct.
But then placing unrealistic expectations on
Yep.
yourself.
Yep.
So that comes from a lot of these things in
Yeah.
here. And one of the things that we talked about, and we're going to talk about more because it is the Fit Fat Dad podcast, but health and fitness, that is one that is, so if you look at it from getting back to the comparison lifestyle,
Hmm.
if I'm a man or a dad and I haven't been physically active, or I've never gotten into working out in my entire life, and I want to go to the gym now because I understand that for longevity, fitness is going to be healthy.
Hmm.
So now I'm going to go look on how to be fit and healthy, and I'm going to be just swarmed with all this content of meatheads and people doing like crazy stuff, like hanging upside down from their feet on a pull-up rack and then vertically bench pressing 225 pounds. Like, it's chaos. I mean, if I
Right.
wasn't born and raised with principles of how to do that and getting into it in the first arena, I would never want to step foot in the gym because I would lose confidence and
Yeah.
just seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
This is the standard that I have to be. And none, one, you don't even know if that stuff's real, but it's stuff that you see, like less than 0.5% of men or dads in the world could even do that stuff,
Right.
right? Assuming that it's real. So
Yeah.
it's just a false, but that prevents people from even taking this first step. Hey, I mean, you own two gyms. Talk to me about what you see in just the health and fitness category alone about taking the first step, the resistance to even go in there.
Oh, I hear it all the time. I mean, every time. Like I talk to men and women, you know, most of the gym intimidation, whatever, is coming from ladies. Like, hey, I hear that a lot out of them. Where it comes from men is I don't know what to do.
Right.
Right. I can't tell you how many conversations I have where it's like, I just don't know what to do. What diet should I be on? Should I be doing cardio? Should I be lifting weights? And it's all the time. And well, I read this and I've had countless conversations. Well, Blair, I did this diet and I lost this weight and I put it all back on. That's constant. And and I think that's where social media, and we keep going back, is that comparison is like, oh, I have the next magic pill, do my program, spend $20 and do this, and get this fitness and this diet. And yes, I have two gyms and I have a brand that I represent. However, I will 100% say, find something that you can do and be consistent at. That's the key, right? If you enjoy it, you'll go back. That's one. And then two, get a coach. If you're starting out, don't do it alone. And I'm not talking about your best friend that says they're a personal trainer and they got a certification off the internet. If you got a certification off the internet, that's fantastic. But somebody that's been in the fitness game, especially for males, right? Especially for males, get a coach, get
Yeah.
somebody that's going to pour into you and that's going to hold you accountable. Because guess what? With all the other pressures of being a dad and the dad life, and now you're going to take time away from that to better yourself, then have somebody that's going to be in that corner that's never going to be oh, I'm too tired to go to the gym today. Um, and there's a lot of people out there. I tell everybody this: 1% of the people that you see go into quote unquote big box gyms can do it on their own. The other probably 99, I may be over exaggerating a little bit, but probably I would say 95% of people, they need accountability,
Yeah.
right? And whether it's and the coach is going to be the best way to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, how many life coaches do you see out there? How many business coaches do you see out there? And I think that's where somebody pouring in, you saying, stop comparing yourself to the bro that's next door, that you're 40 and a dad and he's 21. I mean, come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing, and just get started.
Yeah. And we go back to, and I love fitness. I mean, because you can apply it to all areas of life. But we talked in last week's episode, Do It Yourself Dads, that it's not a loss of pride or anything
Yeah,
against you if you just hire an expert to help get where you need. That's going to give you sound advice. That's the right advice. Because using the fitness example, as men, if they're not where they want to be, you can get a lot of bad advice from somebody at a gym or anywhere that says, "Hey, I can get you there a whole lot faster."
yeah,
And now it's you're looking at whether that's steroid use
yeah.
or whatever, and that exists because that is a route that a lot of people will take. Then they don't go back to the realization of, here's why I'm doing it, to be healthy and live a long-term life for my family. And,
That's
and
right.
it's just, it can go down a whole nother road. So that's going to be a whole nother podcast topic. But the other thing, and then we'll turn it around on how to deal with some of these things, but dealing with guilt is probably another thing that really makes dads lose their confidence. And this could be guilt from something as I call quote unquote simple as missing a kid's practice or not being there because you were traveling, to something larger, like maybe there's marital issues there. Maybe there's, somebody's not been loyal.
Mhm.
Maybe it's sin in somebody's life that somebody's dealing with. And if not dealt with all of those things, it can manifest. And even if it's guilt from a divorce and you're trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on from there, if that's not dealt with in an appropriate manner, it gets buried. And that has a huge way of just eating somebody alive to the point where there's no return. I
Yep.
can't rebound from this. Everything wrong has happened and I'm just going to quit and just let the quicksand devour me. And in a lot of like the small groups that we've been a part of, this is probably the biggest area that we've seen men and dads struggle with, because it's one that they don't want to bring up in a
Mhm.
room. It's one they don't easily feel like they can talk about. It's one that I am the only person in the world dealing
Yep.
with this. And that is just a terrible place to be. And the reality is, and this is where we'll start turning around, is that's what the enemy puts in your head, that you are the only one that's dealing with this. Reality is everybody's dealing with this.
Right.
It may not have manifested to the point of the situation that this person could currently be in, but the roots are there. And if again, you've been in those rooms when dads have opened up and said, "Here is the part of my life that's weighing me down,"
Mhm.
and everybody in that room is like, "Yes, we know. Like we've dealt with that," and they're
Yep.
like, "Wow, I thought I was the only person." And there's just this freedom that comes with that. But if not dealt with, that continues to eat
Mhm.
at confidence, and that will just erode any level of just coming back from that. And that's a tough spot to be in for anybody.
Yeah, isolation is, maybe it's isolation.
Isolation, yeah, I
It's
think that's a great word.
it's that mentality of I'm the only one, and the trickle down effect of what you said of comparison is like, look at everybody on social media and they're just they're living
Living
even
the dream.
living the dream, and and we've said this in previous podcasts that's and some people are, and that's great, but the reality is everybody's going through something
Mhm.
at some point in their lives, peaks and valleys, and but the only thing you see on social media is the peaks. And we'll talk about this in another podcast, coming up in season 2 um, of my life. And I got into a very isolationist mentality,
Hmm.
a couple years ago. And it wasn't until we got in a small group that I realized I'm not alone. Like there are other men, and as men and as dads, you can get very quickly on an island, or what you feel like is an island. Um, and it snowballs. So when you were talking about having those ideas and the thoughts that start, and maybe they haven't manifested into, something greater, if they're manifesting, find somebody,
Yeah.
best friend, a small group, whoever, a golfing buddy, I don't know, a hunting buddy, whatever it is, find somebody to talk to, go to coffee. Like
Yeah.
just talk to that person and be real with them. And I'm not, it may even be your spouse. It may even be your spouse. And this, in later, we'll discuss that at a later date too. Um, but sometimes spouses just don't understand, right? And I'm not saying they don't understand, but it's good to be around other males that are probably
Yeah.
going through the same things that you're going through, and hearing it from a male's perspective really can pull that isolationist mentality out of it and be like, okay,
Yeah.
it's gonna be okay. And then you start to feel like what you mentioned earlier, that freedom and that burden lifted, and then you can start living again.
Yeah. It's so let's just agree with that. The first turnaround is you need community,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
community of other men, dads that are going to hold you accountable. You need somebody that's going to sit down at coffee and say, Blair, how's your marriage?
Yep.
Right? Hey, you mentioned this last week. You said it was a area that you were struggling with.
Yep.
Did you improve any? Did it? And it's not really getting in a group where people are going to just sit there and hold you guilt. It's somebody that's going to say, "Hey, you asked me to follow up on you
Yep.
here." Um, I've been a part of small groups where somebody will just literally come up to me and said, "Name the last time you thought about another woman naked other than your wife." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa," and you're like, "Be honest." And you're like, "Whoa, oh, okay." But that's the level
Yeah.
of. I mean, you don't want to be in a group where where you're surrounded by other people that encourage looking
Right.
around the corner, or encouraging looking at things that you shouldn't, or being a part of activities that doesn't strengthen a family, strengthen a marriage, because all of that's just going to add into the, and you can go run that wild. Tell me where you end up. It's
Yeah.
not going to be in a good spot. And so that's the whole method of the group. And we're not talking about a kumbaya. We're talking about like
Real.
real. And it, again, like with our groups, it all starts with a bunch of just crazy BS and sports, and it takes 30 minutes to warm everything up to get into some of the meat. But at that, you really understand that things, and that's a great way to start really maintaining confidence, but
Mhm.
encouraging, hey, I can walk through this. This is not
Right.
an unusual problem. um, so the other thing that, this is something that I go back to, and but if we're created in God's image, then we shouldn't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. We just need to focus on, what am I doing that is pleasing God?
Right.
What am I doing that is pleasing my family? How can I get a little bit better?
Right.
What is the self reflection on? Here are the things that I said I was going to get better last week. Did I improve?
Right.
And even if I didn't, that's okay, because that gives me opportunity to go back and work on some of these things. Um, and then here's another one that I've really just been marinating on, and I think it serves as well, is take the lowest seat.
Mm.
And that, in other words, is saying, hey, be humble, be gentle, be patient, make allowance for others' faults. But I love in Scripture how Jesus talks about taking the lowest seat, because if you take the seat at the table, there's always going to be, at the head of the table, there's always going to be somebody in that's greater, of more power,
Hmm.
of more influence than you, that's going to ask you to get up because you're in their seat. But if you're at the lowest seat already, it's like you talked about your Mother's Day gift. You got nowhere to go but up.
Right.
It's a promotion no matter where you at. So no matter know where you are at in life, and like professionally, if you're the CEO, president of the whatever, take the lowest seat.
It's funny you say that, take the low seat. So even if you've reached the pinnacle of one aspect of your life, I guarantee you can take the lowest seat somewhere else.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because nobody is sitting at the head of the table in all areas of their life.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, that's just, I think as males, we start as men and as dads, we have a lot to juggle, and then, not discrediting what moms and wives and have to juggle as well. But, there's a lot of stuff that we juggle with, and a ball will drop, or a
Yeah.
ball will be lower than the other one. So again, be humble about it. Recognize that, hey, I think, okay, to sum all this up, I think recognize that you are inadequate in some areas,
Mhm.
right? I think a lot of times men aren't humble enough to look at themselves in the mirror and say, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was right here. Or, oh man, I am struggling in this area. Because men want to beat their chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at me, look at me, look at me. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to look at the man in the mirror and say, okay, I'm successful over here, but I'm really dropping the ball over here.
Yeah.
And how can I get better in this area? And like that's the way I would sum up this whole episode. Is just look in the mirror and be real with yourself.
Yeah.
Again, I can always get better. I have not arrived yet. And if that's the mentality that you can create for all the aspects of your life, is I have never arrived, watch what happens.
Yeah. Because the alternative is that somebody owes you something.
That's right.
That you've arrived. You're deserving of this. I've put in the work. I don't have to work any harder. And I think that's the point to end.
Yep.
If you don't quit, you win.
That's right. Absolutely. Don't quit.
Don't quit. Don't get to a point of, I've got everything. I can quit. I can stop. Because you lose. So if you don't quit, you win. And that takes us to the end. Blair, pleasure knocking out another episode with you, sir.
Go crush the day, man.
Yes, sir.
We're out.